When you place a child in someone else's care, you expect shelter, not danger. In this case, that trust did not hold. By the way, I'm curious, where are you watching from? I read all your comments, and your suggestions often inspire our next cases. Drop a comment below. On September 3, 2025, Pennsylvania State Police issued an urgent missing person alert. Renesmay Eutsey had vanished from her home in Dunbar Borough. A special needs child who had been living with her foster family. The call came in at 12:41 p.m. Nearly 11 hours after she was last seen. This was not a stranger abduction. Those responsible for Renesmay's care were family or close to the family. The situation becomes more troubling when you see who was caring for her. Renesmay's foster mother, 31-year-old Kourtney Eutsey, was her blood cousin. She'd taken custody back in 2019 when Renesmay's biological mother was trying to rebuild her life. Kourtney's partner, 35-year-old Sarah Shipley, had grown up alongside the biological mother. This was chosen family a safe haven built on decades of connection. Or so it appeared. When officers arrived, Kourtney's story seemed straightforward enough. Renesmay had wandered away around 2 a.m. The house was searched. Surveillance footage reviewed. Search teams deployed across Fayette County. For over 11 hours, the mobilization was massive. K-9 units tracked scents that led nowhere. Volunteers walked grid patterns through woods and fields. Technical equipment scanned the waters. Hundreds of people, holding on to hope for a little girl they'd never met. But something felt off. Electronic records revealed a major inconsistency. Devices linked to Renesmay pinged inside the home at 6 a.m., hours after she was reported missing. That detail shifted the investigation. State troopers recovered Renesmay's remains along the Youghiogheny River near Smithton on September 4. Authorities later arrested and charged Kourtney Eutsey in connection with the death. Think about that for a moment. How do you explain a missing child's belongings staying put while she vanishes into thin air? Two possibilities emerge: either someone moved her devices back inside, or she never left at all. The timeline wasn't adding up. But it was the children's voices that would shatter the carefully constructed lie. Investigators removed multiple children from the home. Court filings note at least one child required hospitalization for concerning medical conditions. According to court documents, while authorities waited for a search warrant, one child approached officers and apologized for lying. What they revealed next would change everything. The child shared information suggesting they knew their sister wouldn't be coming home. That statement from witness interviews shows just how much these children knew and how long they'd been carrying that terrible secret. Another child reported overhearing conversations about taking Renesmay somewhere far away. Other children reported hearing distressing sounds and witnessing concerning treatment. One child described seeing Renesmay removed from the house under troubling circumstances. You have to wonder how long had these children been carrying this knowledge? How many nights did they lie awake, knowing what they'd seen? Here's where investigators faced a puzzle. If the children's accounts were accurate, why would Kourtney report Renesmay missing at all? Three theories emerged. Theory 1, panic and cover-up. Perhaps something happened accidentally, and the missing person report was meant to buy time while figuring out next steps. Theory 2, misdirection. Create a false narrative to throw investigators off the real timeline and circumstances. Theory 3, genuine delusion. In extreme psychological distress, the perpetrator might have convinced themselves the story was true. Each theory had problems. But the evidence was pointing in one direction. Surveillance footage revealed more inconsistencies. A vehicle arriving at the 3rd Street residence shortly before 4 a.m. Someone going in and out multiple times. The timeline didn't match the reported disappearance story. Someone was lying. Under questioning, the accounts began unraveling like a cheap sweater. Sarah claimed she'd last seen Renesmay at bedtime Tuesday night. But children in the house told a different story. They reported hearing Renesmay in distress in her room that same night. District Attorney Michael Auble would later describe the investigation's frustration: "We had a lot of search teams out. We had a lot of people looking for this girl. A lot of false hope. While exhausted volunteers combed through darkness, while the community prayed for a miracle, the truth was already known by the people who should have been protecting her." As pressure mounted, the carefully constructed story began to collapse. Authorities reported Sarah Shipley was later found unresponsive and hospitalized. Prosecutors subsequently announced charges against a second woman in the case. Court documents say Kourtney later told investigators Renesmay had suffered an untreated injury about a week earlier. On September 2, the child became ill. Kourtney claimed she attempted life-saving measures before the child passed away. But here's the critical question: why didn't she call for help immediately? Investigators say Kourtney never sought medical attention for the previous injury. Court documents say Kourtney told investigators she panicked and did not seek medical care, allegedly out of fear of legal consequences related to the child's condition. The physical evidence would soon provide disturbing context. Instead of calling emergency services, Kourtney claimed she panicked. That fear of consequences became more important than getting help for a vulnerable child. Investigators allege Renesmay was taken from the home to a location near Periopolis. On September 4, 2025, her body was recovered near Smithton. The search was over. But the real investigation was just beginning. Medical findings indicated serious health concerns and evidence of harm. Examiners noted signs consistent with previous injuries. Evidence of prolonged neglect that couldn't be explained by a single incident. This wasn't an accident spiraling out of control. This was a pattern of harmful treatment. Officials ordered an autopsy to determine the official cause and manner of death. The evidence told a story of sustained neglect and harmful treatment. The biological mother, Christina Benedetto, had trusted these guardians with her children while getting her life together. People she believed would protect her daughters and sons. "They were supposed to be somebody I could trust with my kids while I got my life situated," Benedetto said. "I wasn't the best mother, but I was still there. They wouldn't let me have any contact with any of the kids." For 13 hours on September 3, Benedetto searched for Renesmay. She had no idea her daughter had already passed away. No idea the trust she'd placed had been shattered in the most devastating way possible. Just when it seemed the worst was known, investigators uncovered an even more disturbing truth. When authorities removed 4 additional children from the home, they discovered something that shocked even seasoned investigators. One young child required immediate medical attention. Evaluations revealed numerous signs of neglect and concerning treatment. According to District Attorney Auble, the harmful treatment wasn't just hidden, it was actively concealed. Kourtney and Sarah had deliberately isolated all the children, cutting them off from professionals who might have noticed the warning signs. The children were homeschooled, further limiting outside contact. Multiple children had suffered under this roof. The pattern was becoming clear. Sarah Shipley was found unresponsive at the home on Friday morning, taken to hospital for what authorities described as a medical emergency. According to investigators, when detectives asked if her condition was related to what happened to Renesmay, Sarah, though verbally unresponsive, was observed responding affirmatively. The weight of guilt, perhaps. Or the crushing realization that the truth would finally emerge. The legal consequences followed swiftly. Prosecutors charged Kourtney in connection with the case, along with additional counts including aggravated assault, endangering the welfare of children, and tampering with evidence. Sarah faced charges in connection with the case and conspiracy. Additional charges were filed in September 2025 related to the alleged treatment of other children in their care. In the days after, investigators filed additional charges as the probe expanded. As of September 2025, both women were being held without bail and were described by prosecutors as threats to themselves and others. For Renesmay, the danger didn't come from a stranger lurking in shadows. It came from the very people who promised to protect her while her mother tried to rebuild her life. The people who were supposed to be her safe harbor became her greatest threat. The surviving children have been removed from the home and placed with other relatives. They're receiving support as they heal from trauma no child should ever experience. But the psychological impact from what they witnessed may take years to address. This case raises critical questions about our child protection systems. How did this go unnoticed for so long? What warning signs were missed? Which system should have intervened sooner? How do we better protect vulnerable children in care situations? These aren't just questions for investigators, they're questions for all of us. Because somewhere, another child might be waiting for someone to notice. Before another trust becomes a weapon. Understanding cases like this helps us recognize warning signs and advocate for stronger protections for vulnerable children in our communities. If you found this analysis helpful for understanding child protection issues, consider sharing it to raise awareness. What systemic changes do you think could prevent similar tragedies?
If you enjoy deep dives into true crime, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next story. Until next time, friends!